Hello and welcome to Thanks Ringing. I'm Linda Honorevoli, the Executive Director of Handbell Musicians of America. I am joined by our esteemed handbell musicians, Michelle Sherrick, Michael Glasgow, Greg Ashurst, our team member J.R. Smith, who is also an esteemed handbell musician, and Derek Nance, who is running this entire show for us today. Thank you for your patience as we work through our technical issues. You know, life happens. So tonight, or today, depending on where you are in the world, we are giving thanks and showing appreciation to those who have brought our art form to where it is today, and those who are helping us move forward into the future. Right now, I would like to allow Greg Ashurst, our board president, to say a few words.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us here for this wonderfully fun event. And thank you so much to Michelle and Michael for leading us in this wonderful time. And of course, Derek and JR and Linda for getting this all together and helping it run. Handbell Musicians of America is dedicated to advancing the musical art of handbell and hand chime ringing through education, community, and communication. And tonight we have all of those here. And so we hope you learned something wonderful. We hope you can enjoy the communication through the chat and through just learning what other ensembles do and the joy that they have in making music. And this itself is a community, something to which I look forward every single year and every time we do this. So thank you so much for being here, and I hope you have so much fun.
Thank you, Greg. We appreciate all of your leadership as our board president. J.R. Smith is a fantastic member of our team, and he is going to be sharing some information with all of you about some fabulous prizes that you might be able to win today. J.R., take it away.
You'll notice behind me, I still can't figure out how to point, a big wheel with a lot of blank spaces in it. And throughout the broadcast, we are going to be throwing names onto that wheel. And we have a very specific way we're going to do it. And at the end of the show, we are going to spin that wheel a few times to give some stuff away because we love giving things away. What's going to happen throughout the broadcast, randomly, down at the bottom of the screen, a trivia question will pop up. Whenever you see one of those pop up, and we're not going to warn you, it's just going to happen. When you see one pop up, give your best answer in the chat. And the first 20 people to get the answer correct will have their names put up on the board. And then, like I said, at the end, we have a few things we're going to give away, including a year's membership to HMA or an extension of your membership if you're already a member. A free registration to our virtual winter workshop happening in January. And then the big grand prize is we're going to give away a full registration to National Seminar next July, including 6 nights hotel stay.
Oh, nice.
That's a big prize.
It is a Mac Daddy prize. We're excited about that.
So watch your screen and answer questions.
Okay, at this point, I want to share a little about what's going to happen tonight. Some of the interviews that we are having have been pre-recorded by the fabulous Michael and Michelle, and some of them will be live. So we won't tell you which ones. You will just find out as they happen, as will we currently. So I'm going to give a look over to Derek and see, are we ready for me to toss to the first interview, who is an amazing person. Many of you will recognize him. He is one of of the most fantastic composers, conductors of handbells, and of lots of other things too. He is Mr. Dr. Excuse me, not Mr. Dr. William Payn.
Well, Bill, thanks for being with us. We're excited to have you involved in this project. We're going to dive right on in because there's so many things we can, would, could, should, want to ask you. But I think probably the most logical place to start is at the beginning. You do a lot of writing. It was very surprising to me working with your community chorus a week and a half ago that they didn't know, a lot of them, that you do handbells. And in the handbell world, a lot of people don't know that you and myself and a lot of other people do choral music.
Exactly.
So what came first in your composition journey, and when did handbells enter the picture, and how did you get inspired to start writing for bells?
Wow. Well, it goes back to 1970. And by the way, happy Thanksgiving and to everyone. It's pretty amazing to have this opportunity to just chat a bit. Before I went into academia and started teaching on the college level, I was a full-time church musician, and that was my training. Obviously, the training was basically choral, and I was an organist as well. So the first church that I served had a 5-octave set of Whitechapel bells. I knew nothing about bells, nothing. And so I thought I'd be smart and set up the bell set for the ringers before they come in to meet me for the first time. So I set it all up, and they're coming in and they're looking at the bell set and they're just saying, no, this isn't what we're used to. I didn't even know that the bells sound an octave higher. So I had set them up so that C4 was middle C, and
It is.
it's the whole thing. So that was my history there. And so I decided to, in order to learn more about bells, to take my ringers to an area festival. And we were in Area 2 at that time. This was in Ohio. Went to Hiram College, which was my very first HMA festival at that time, AGEHR. And I decided to write a piece for my choir to ring. Well, it's really embarrassing. It was called Festival Alleluia, and it was for, I think, 5 octaves of bells, gong, and triangle. If you can imagine.
That doesn't sound so weird nowadays, though.
I guess.
Things that go ding and bang.
That's right. So that was my first attempt at writing for handbells. Shortly after that, I moved to New Jersey to a rather large mainline Presbyterian church in Morristown. And it was the Church on the Green was the name. And I introduced handbells to that congregation and to particularly the young people at that church. This in the 1970s, young people were just coming out of the woodwork in churches. And in this particular town, the word got out that there was this new young conductor doing bells and choir and all this stuff. And so kids were coming to the program that didn't even belong to the church, but they just wanted to be a part of it. So long story short, I started the bell program there with a 4-octave set of bells. And in those days, because there were so many young people, I had, in a choir of 4 octaves, I had maybe 16 ringers or more. And so some of them were only ringing one bell, or, and I'd look at the lower bells and the higher bells, and I noticed that these kids were just standing there, not doing a whole lot, and just excited to kind of be a part of it, but not really doing anything. And that's when Prisms was born. I decided I needed to write a piece that used every bell in the set and would really involve the upper spectrum and the lower spectrum. So and Prisms was my first real piece.
Where do you still have the manuscript for your first not real piece, right?
No, that was sold at auction at an HMA event.
The one that you were talking about with the triangle and the gong.
Oh no, that piece it's tucked away in a file, but it's interesting. It's interesting. Brian Seaman and his ensemble, Virginia Braun's, were doing a program that featured my music and Michael Joy's music, and they called it The Joy and Pain of Handbell Ringing. And he asked if they could look at my piece. Well, I sent it to him, and then during the concert, he surprised me and they rang it.
That's awesome.
And I sat there with my head in my hand. But they did.
I'll have to go from somewhere, you know.
But it's not ever going to be published. I can guarantee it.
We've obviously done some work together on
Yes.
a collaboration, and that was, of course, a good time. And I mean, I'm assuming there's usually wine involved when you're writing, but do you approach composing for bells differently than you approach writing an original something for chorus or for other instrumentation, orchestra, etc.?
Sure. Yes, I definitely do. It's like somebody who writes a book. They need to know their subject. They need to know what they're talking about. And so for me to write a handbell work, obviously I need to know all of the ramifications of what this is going to involve, including range and timbre and what have you, and the fact that the bells ring an octave higher. So I approach, it's very different from my choral writing in that respect, because with choral writing, it's more layered. You're thinking of various voices, and but you're with bells, but it's basically you're thinking maybe the low range, the battery, and the high range, but it all comes together, and so it is a very different experience in that regard. Yeah.
Yeah, and having I know your favorite thing is to deal with enclosures when it's a 3 to 7 octave piece or something. I mean, it's one of very few instruments where the range can change, and you got to write stuff ideally that fits multiple ranges of sets. So that affects a lot of harmonic structure and chord inversion and that kind of stuff.
I know. And just thinking, someone who would be inexperienced might write 50 measures with the low bells playing 30-second notes,
Yeah.
And it's just not possible. Either mallet it or stop. Don't do that. Yeah.
All right. So I have one question that you've said earlier when you said that you had set the C4 up as middle C. Did you set them up backwards? So was it keyboard order from your side or from their side?
Yes, I'm pretty sure it was. So they had to totally. Did you do that, Michelle? You said
No, no, I didn't. Because actually, the way I came to ring is I joined a bell choir, so I didn't start
right
away. But okay, so you have retired, Dr. Payn, and yet you're back. So why did you unretire?
Okay. Yes, I was the last seminar, master class, was supposed to be my last. And I was really serious about that. I felt like it was time for another conductor to come in and work with these incredible students. But when I did retire, then I kept getting messages, email, letters, notes from former colleagues, but also from those who had not worked with me, saying they were really disappointed that I was stopping. And so that made me really think twice. Give me a student that wants to learn and I'm there. And so I thought, I cannot not continue to teach if students want me. And so that's why I've come out of retirement this year to to teach master class.
Well,
And
we
I'll
are
do it,
thrilled that you were doing
you know,
that.
as long as I can. Yeah.
You talked about people writing you to ask you to please come out of retirement, or they wanted to learn with you to these kind of things. So
Right.
basically, you're like a rock star here in Handbell.
Oh.
So what's it like being a rock star?
I'm not a rock star, but you know, I was just very fortunate to grow, to have the learning experience that I had early on in the 70s. I was kind of a product of being in the right place at the right time because, you know, I was born mid-century, mid-20th century. I trained as a professional musician. I was thrown into the world of handbells, and I was able to observe an amazing people on the podium when I'd go to these area festivals. Um, it was incredible. Publishing of handbell music came about because I was in the right place at the right time. I wrote Prisms. I had my ringers perform it at an area festival, and a publisher came up to me right after our performance and said, "I want that piece." You know, and I was like 24 years old. So it was amazing to me that somebody wanted my music. I went to another festival where I was chairman. I was in charge of the festival. I think it was Area 5. And the guest masked conductor was late. And so they said, "You're on. You've got to take this first mass rehearsal." You know, I was probably 26 at that point. So I get up and thank God I knew the music and, you know, my ringers knew it. And it was an amazing experience. And so that kind of catapulted me into the conducting realm,
Sure.
um, doing it in front of 500 ringers. And in those days, in the 1970s, 1980s, you could go to a festival and you'd have 500, 800 masked ringers. And that's why I probably got rotator cuff problems later on in life.
If somebody is a recent graduate and say they've never heard handbells and they come to you, what would you say to that person?
And they want to
They
maybe
want to,
conduct bells or be in a group.
or they got a church job and they're like, oh, here's a handbell choir, go.
Yeah, I know. And I would say absolutely that we need to use HMA as a resource and go visit other groups within your community
Mhm.
and be aware. Put the word out that you need help. I think one of the big discouraging things this day and age for many new handbell conductors, well, not new, everyone, is the challenges of commitment.
Yes,
You know,
yes.
uh, the young people are in sports, they're in theater, they're doing all kinds of things academically, and then adults are have children that they need to take care of, or they're on a business trip, what have you. And I think we need to be there for those conductors who, you know, get frustrated with that kind of haphazard approach to coming to rehearsals and what have you. Um, I think that it would help to, if you're a new conductor, to get the word out in the musical community, handbell musical community, that you need help. You'd like to know that maybe some of your people could sub when when some of your ringers are absent. What are various techniques that I need to know? So if I would suggest that if you are missing 3 people in a rehearsal and you can't really learn the music that you're doing, work on technique, work on sharing your neighbor's bell, work on meloding techniques, both on the table, off the table, all those things. there's all kinds of exercises that are available to do those, and you can have fun with it. Change ringing, you could spend a whole rehearsal just having
sure.
fun with change ringing, and everybody being able to pick up a different size bell. So there are resources there, and I guess my final thoughts are if you're a new conductor, you're thinking of conducting, or you've been asked to conduct a new ensemble, do it and go whole hog. Just get in there and do it, and take advantage of any resource you can find, both in your community and with HMA.
Excellent advice. Thank you, Jim.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for spending time with us, Bill.
Oh, this has been a pleasure.
You're always so in demand and on the go. It's been great to catch you.
This is great. This is so much fun. And
and welcome to the live version of this. I want to take a minute and say we really appreciate Bill taking the time to join us for the pre-recorded video interview, and to remind everybody that the pre-recorded videos have been edited for time, but they're going to be posting the full version in regular Zoom format, unedited. Just look at the link in the video description or something right down there. So, Linda, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
Linda Krantz,
Linda Krantz.
from outside of Los Angeles, Glendale, California. And
Yes.
Linda has been doing solo handbells for a number of years. And she is the founder of LA Bronze and still rings with that group. We're just so delighted to have you with us.
And I'm delighted to be here. Thank you, Michael.
You got a little bit of bronze behind you.
I have a little bit of, I do. This is my office. This is where I practice, up against this wall.
Fantastic.
So, yeah.
Well, I want to ask this unique question that's not that unique, because I'm going to ask someone else's question later. But you have obviously performed a ton of solo literature on the instrument, and you have obviously opted not to perform certain pieces in the repertoire because you got to choose what you're going to do as you're building a concert, as you're putting together a program. So to all of the composers and arrangers out there that want to write for solo handbell performers, or for all of the fledgling solo performers that are looking for rep and figuring out how to do what they want to do, what characteristics would you say embody the ideal handbell solo?
Oh
What
God,
do you look for? What should people be looking for? What should composers be writing?
that's a really difficult question, and no one warned me about that one. I thought I was going to talk about Nancy Haskell.
Well,
I look for a really beautiful melody line. I look for a very lush piano accompaniment. I really love when they have additional instruments, particularly the cello or the flute, but cello's my favorite. I am a classical music lover, so I tend to lean more towards classical rep. I have found that a lot of foray pieces really work well on handbells. I've done several. I did Cantique de Jean Racine at Area 1 last summer. I resurrected that one, hadn't played it in a long time. I've played the Après un Rêve with the cello. I've done After the Dream. I've done a bunch of stuff. I'm working on the Pavane at the moment.
oh yeah.
And the Sicilienne, Nancy's version. So, yeah, that kind of stuff.
What makes it, what are the things that maybe on the other side of the coin for folks that are writing or trying to write for bells, knowing that typically a solo piece is accompanied by keyboard or some other instrument just to fill out texture? What are the pitfalls to avoid?
The pieces that I don't play are if they're very fast and I cannot implement my traveling four in hand. And if a composer is unfamiliar with that, typically what I'm looking for are the chordal structures that are in a linear line so I can choose constants easily. If it's a lot of up and down, with big jumps, those are sometimes a little harder to do. I don't know. Those are hard questions, Michael.
I thought those would be fun.
They are fun.
But I am going to ask you about Nancy. So you get to talk about her anyway. So my question, you're basically the keeper of Nancy's flame. I know that you and I, we both worked
Proudly,
with her.
by the way, proudly.
Miss her so very much. And we're going to watch a video of you and also a video of Nancy after this interview. So I'm looking forward to that. But I want to ask you, what do you think is the number one thing you've learned from Nancy, from reading her notes, from studying with her, from studying her music?
Nancy taught me everything she knew about traveling four in hand because I picked her poor brain dry. I mean, I really did. When in my first weekend with her, I walked in with this piece and I said, I got this far and I don't understand how you pick your consonants. I don't understand. And of course, oh, this will really help my book, and I'm not sure at that point she'd really thought about it, the strategies that she uses to really make a solo fluent and musical with less arm motion. God, I learned so much from her. I feel like I know how her brain worked because I teach directly from her slides, and she trusted me with it because she knew I understood how she wanted it taught and what she meant. And I learned about, how do you choose a constant? How do you make a line fluid? How do you keep the musicality of it? Some of you who have seen me or had taken classes from me know that my soapbox is storytelling. Are you actually telling a story with your music? And I learned some of that from Nancy, and I feel a deep, deep obligation to keep her name and her work alive.
Yes. And I for one, thank you for that because she was brilliant.
She
Absolutely.
was brilliant.
And, it's one of the things that she said, we did an event together. God, it was Area 12, actually. It was out there with you guys in California.
Oh, yeah, Disneyland.
Nancy and Tim Waugh. Oh, just miss them both so much. But Nancy Haskell said that she had gotten known for being a wonderful solo handbell artist, but also known for pretty much regularly at some point in one of her performances going, wait, hang on, that's not working, let me start again. But she was such a consummate performer, the way that she just had such grace under fire with that stuff, and just, stuff happens. And she almost made, when there was a glitch, and a lot of times, God, she got out of them without anyone knowing anything had gone wrong. But when something got beyond the point of saving it, she just let it roll, and it became part of the character of her performance. And so she was a brilliant musician, but also a really entertaining comedian in a lot of ways that never let herself get flummoxed and flustered. And I admire that so much because we all make mistakes, and it's how you recover from it and what you do with it afterwards.
I like to tell people that solo ringing is not unlike ice skating, because you never know when you're going to slip on the ice.
Right.
Yeah, and I have had, we've all had that happen. I've had chances where I've been singing what the notes I've missed as I'm trying to fix my table and get back in. I think that part of the charm is that you make yourself human to your audience, and you've brought them in, and now they're a part of you, and if you can, and if the audience laughs, it's like, good.
Yeah, they're
Good.
rooting for you.
They're rooting for you. Yeah.
Yeah, the audience wants to see you succeed. I think we sometimes forget about that because, it's like we're so embarrassed. Like, they want you to succeed. They're on your side.
Yeah.
The audience is there because they want you to succeed.
And it's funny, I think our handbell community is different from a lot of other music communities in that they say, the hardest audience to play for is the audience that knows what's going on. So you go to a national handbell seminar, Pinnacle, whatever, and you're playing for a room of amazing handbell musicians. I can see that's unnerving. On the other hand, they all they know the struggle because they've been there. And I find it really interesting when they're, especially watching solo performers, when something goes sideways, no pun intended, that bell rolls or whatever, and the audience notices that, you can feel the energy just like rooting on that performer to say they're going to get it. And the recovery, the ovations after that are fantastic because they know you didn't just play well, but you got out of an entanglement that you were stuck in, and they can appreciate that. And you're lauded for being able to do that and respond to it accordingly. So I like that side of things too.
I play Cantique de Jean. You just reminded me that I play Cantique de Jean, whatever that song was, at a national seminar in Cincinnati when I shared a concert with
Missed,
Emily Lee. And it was the first time I'd performed it after I changed the keyboard. I had moved 10 days before. I'd moved all the black keys. It's got 5 flats. I moved it all down, and it got a little tangled, but I recovered. And every person who passed me the rest of that conference said, "You are the recovery queen." I've never seen anyone do that. I was like, "I'll wear it proudly." Yep.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, we don't have that queued up, but we do have a performance of you doing Joyful, Joyful. And then we actually have a video of Nancy Haskell playing Advent Medley. So we're going to throw that back to Derek for that. And Linda, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much. Can I just say really quickly, Joyful, Joyful is a performance at Into the Forest last summer. That's written by Jason Krug.
Fantastic.
Thank you, Linda.
So wonderful. I'm so impressed with solo handbell artists. It's just the way you all do it. It just blows my mind. And thanks to Linda again for taking the time to be with us in this very busy, crazy time of year for musicians. It was much appreciated. So
I'd like to take a,
we're
oops, sorry.
Laura.
Sorry, I stepped on you, Michael. I apologize.
All's well.
I wanted to remind folks that you're watching us on our YouTube channel right now. If you have not liked and subscribed, please do. And then you will get lovely reminders about future events that we do. We do lots of live streams throughout the year of concerts throughout the country. Also, if you are interested in learning about different handbell performances in your communities, go to our website, handbellmusicians.org, and you can click on our event calendar and you can sort by state or all different ways. So please go take a look there and please support the local handbell ensembles and soloists in your community.
Great. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel that you're watching this on right now. And next up, we have a pre-recorded video with Griff Gall from Boston, Back Bay Ringers. And I think we're going to be talking about Christmas caroling with handbells. So see you on the other side. So Griff, it's great to see you. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
That's exciting.
So are we.
Yes. Okay, so one of the things we'd like to talk to you about is the caroling on Beacon Hill. How did you first find out that it was a thing?
That's a fun question. When I was a student at Westminster, one of Kathy's sort of standard bantering things that she would talk about, especially during our winter concerts, was this tradition of ringing on Beacon Hill. And when I moved to Boston in 2000, I would always travel home on either Christmas Eve or the day before Christmas Eve to visit my family in Maryland. So I was never able to sort of connect or see the ringing tradition. But I would frequently read little articles, whether it be in the Boston Globe or some of the local newspapers, that the event was still happening. And so I was excited to hear that. In 2016, after one of our Boston Handbell Festival concerts, a woman came up to me. Her name was Pamela Madigan, and she asked if I would be interested in ringing as part of the Beacon Hill Ringers. And it turns out that she has been ringing with the Beacon Hill Ringers since the 1960s.
Wow.
Her mother had sort of previously organized it and had actually knew Margaret Shercliffe, knew Elizabeth Bradford. And so she was just continuing this legacy that had been in existence for nearly 100 years.
Wow.
And so I've been able to ring with them on Christmas Eve, much to my mother's chagrin, since I'm not home on Christmas Eve now. But I've been able to ring with them since 2016.
My personal question is, are you in any way in charge of it or organizing it, or are you just a ringer? Not just, you know.
So right now I am just a ringer. Pamela is still organizing it.
Mhm.
I feel like part of the reason that she asked if I could join was sort of as a legacy issue, making sure that when she's no longer willing or able to continue this tradition, that she's bringing in new people that will make sure that the tradition continues.
Excellent.
And certainly myself and the Back Bay Ringers will make sure that the tradition is kept alive and continues. Um, Funny story about that. The first year
Please.
that she invited me, um, I asked if she could send me the music. And so she sent me a wonderful book of carols that was literally all of the lyrics to all of the carols and a starting note, and if there were any flats or sharps involved. That was the music. There
Not even
was
circles and
no
underlines or anything. Oh my gosh.
no notation or anything. It was just the words to the carols and the starting note, and the fact that I was going to be playing C and D. That was it.
It was all by.
I It is all by ear.
Oh
Okay.
I
gosh.
frantically tried to practice and realized that was not possible. And was incredibly nervous going there the first day. We met literally on Christmas Eve at Pamela's house and stood in a line and just started singing and ringing. And it was amazing how quickly most of the melodies come and how much it just flows. There were
Hmm.
still a few where there's some interesting leaps that I wasn't quite expecting and needed to rehearse a little bit more. Um, but it was really fascinating because we're only ringing the melody
I was
line.
going to ask, that was my next question. Only the melody. Okay.
And yeah, it was terrifying, but surprising how easily it came as you were with the group.
I was thinking
Um,
chords and everything too, and I'm like, oh my gosh.
yes, no, thankfully there's no accompaniment. I don't have to be doing music theory in my head
I
right
was
away, which
saying.
everyone is grateful for. Sorry, Mike. It really is a wonderful Boston tradition. And in many ways, this tradition is why we have handbells here in the United States.
Yes.
Um, so Margaret started the tradition with her family, and that Christmas Eve, they went out, they had about 6 carols. They started with a piece called the St. Paul Steeple, which is actually an English folk song. And they would play their 6 carols and then move around Beacon Hill, which is a beautiful neighborhood here in Boston. And crowds would gather and would sing along. And it was really supposed to be just fun, right? Like it was just ringing in the holiday spirit. Um, and the tradition grew.
So let me pivot from the history of what has been and your involvement with that to the looking forward stuff. You know, the Guild, Handbell Musicians of America, our, I guess you'd say, flagship performance events are Distinctly Bronze East and West. We just had Distinctly Bronze West out in Tacoma with Brenda Austin conducting. And I'm excited next spring to be conducting Distinctly Bronze East. And I was excited to see the announcement that you were conducting next year's Distinctly Bronze West. Congrats on that. So
Thank you.
I'm just curious to ask a few thoughts on, like, since it's fresh for me, what was your reaction when that invitation came? And how are you feeling about that?
I was terrified, deeply honored, um, excited beyond belief. I'm really looking forward to working with the caliber of musicians that come to these Distinctly Bronze events.
Hmm.
Um, my focus is always on building community and building musicianship and really focusing on how our art is truly a musical art and the people behind that table. My least favorite word is ringers. They are musicians,
Yes.
first and foremost. and empowering the people behind the table to think of themselves as musicians and making musical choices and being responsible for the musicianship of the ensemble. So I'm incredibly excited.
So, Griff, let's talk a little bit about BBR. So tell me about why you formed the group, and what are you guys doing nowadays?
Back Bay Ringers, for those watching at home that don't know what the alphabet soup is.
Yeah, so Back Bay Ringers was formed in 2004. Um, I got an email from a friend of mine who was a musician at Old South Church. I was conducting a church choir in Boston at the time, and he said, "Hey, I was wondering if you would be interested in starting a handbell ensemble here in Boston for the LGBTQ community." And literally, like a few days before, I had said to my partner that I was really interested in starting a community choir. So BBR was founded as the nation's first open and affirming handbell ensemble for members and friends of the LGBTQIA plus community. And we based our identity around an amazing choir here in Boston called Coro Allegro, which also has that similar open and affirming nature, where it's not specifically an LGBTQ ensemble, but it is intentionally a welcoming and open and affirming space. And that to me is really important. My co-founder had been at a festival, and one of the musicians at the festival had noticed that Peter was wearing a little pride sticker on his name tag. And this musician said to Peter, he says, "Are you here with your church choir?" Peter said, "Oh yeah, of course." And he says, "Well," says, "I'm here with my church choir as well, but if they knew that I was gay, I would be asked to leave the church. I wouldn't be able to ring." And making music is, when we ask musicians to make music, we ask them to bring their whole selves. We ask them to, you can't ask someone to really make music and not be fully present. And so that just broke my heart. And so that's really been a key part of who we are.
And do you have any exciting things going into the holiday season? Final words of wisdom for everybody who's trying to keep their sanity during all the holiday music madness?
I mean, I don't know what you're talking about. Handbells at Christmas? It's never a busy time of the year.
Right?
Still,
Never. It's like the least stressful time ever. Especially if you have a church job on top of that. No big deal. No, I just think of all of the joy that it brings. And my number one goal, and I always say this at the end of our concerts, is that I hope that when people come to a Back Bay Ringers concert during the holidays, that it is just a time for them to enjoy the moment, to take a break from the holiday hustle and bustle, not worry about the packages that need to be wrapped and presents that still need to be bought and all the food and all the decorations, and just breathe and relax and be in the moment. And that's really what I hope, that all of our concerts, whether it's Back Bay Ringers or any of the other ensembles as we're performing, that we remember that we're providing that joy and that moment of reflection and calm for our audiences.
Music Kate. I think we'll leave it there. Thank you so much, Griff.
Thank you, Griff, for joining us.
Thank you.
Have an awesome holiday.
You too. Thank you.
Care. Bye.
Yeah.
And we are back. Thanks
Yay.
again to Griff and the Beacon Hill folks for sharing their video and for Griff taking his time to hang with me and Michelle and answer our questions and do some fun stuff. I remind you guys, Handbell musicians, we have on YouTube 3.19K subscribers. So I don't know why they do it that way. It's like you have to move a decimal and there's a bunch of stuff. But there's 133 people watching the stream right now. Are you subscribed? All you got to do is hit the little subscribe button. It's right down there below the video window. So please subscribe and hit the thumbs up to like the video. Bring us up in the algorithm so that more people see what's going on with Handbells.
That's right. And speaking of what's going on with Handbells, we are here to interview Dr. John Benkey. John, welcome, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you,
Now,
Michelle.
I know that you taught at Concordia in Wisconsin for 29 years, but you've recently retired and now you're living in Florida. So what are you doing in Florida now? I'm sure you haven't given up music entirely. So what are you doing?
We've been down here now for 4.5 years, and I'm actually the musician at Lakeside Lutheran Church, and I've got a bell choir.
Bell choir, oh my gosh.
I just started in February, an organist, choir director, and bell choir director. And
But you're retired.
I'm retired. I'm retired. Well, no musician is ever really retired, are they? No. Anyway, I started with, I think, 6 ringers, and we're up to 11 right now. So that's real good. Added the 4th octave, so we're hoping to go a little further. We went to a festival, went to the Area 4 Festival. I think I took 6 people there. So yeah, so it's great. Florida's the weather is superb right now, folks. 77 the high today. Blue skies, sunshine. Doesn't get much better.
It's
Anyway.
warmer than it is for me here in the Bay Area, California.
Do you keep Wisconsin weather on your weather app on your phone so you can check it and see how
You bet I do. I check Milwaukee all the time. And when it says 43 there, I feel real good. Nope, sorry, Milwaukee, sorry.
Neener. Yeah, my parents got snow for the first time of the season up in northern Michigan a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, no snow yet. No, bad. But that's amazing. I didn't know you had relocated, so I need to get back on your
big news, breaking news, right here.
I see it. Well, other breaking news, other things about John Benkey that people may or may not know. So obviously, everyone in Handbell Musicians of America knows you as a handbell composer and clinician, but maybe not everybody knows that you're also an amazingly accomplished organist. And Michelle, I don't know if you're aware that, and I don't know if this is still the case, but when I got to go to Dr. Benkey's home when I was up at Concordia, I was gobsmacked to see that the man has a pipe organ in his home.
And you left that? Did you bring
it still there? Did it come with you? Is there a new one?
I gave it away, but I got a different one. So yeah, it's not a pipe organ here. We're in a condo. It's a little smaller, but I've got an electronic, which is very nice. So, but I did give away the pipe organ, and I gave it away to someone you might know, Michael, but I'm not going to say his name.
All right, well, we'll talk offline on that.
Yeah.
But what I wanted to ask is there's a good bit of handbell repertoire out there that is based on organ masterworks, and a lot of the organ literature really works very well on handbells. So I was thinking for handbell writers who may be interested in tackling an arrangement or an adaptation of a piece from the organ literature, what would you suggest looking for in order to find a piece that would work well on handbells?
Wow, that's a hard question. Organ sometimes has wider ranges, okay, with the pedals and all the extremes of the keyboards and the registrations that you can use to extend. So, you're looking for things that are a little bit tighter together. Contrapuntal music doesn't always work so great on bells. Inner voices can't always come out the same way as they can on the organ. I'm not sure. I've done a few. Fred Grayman certainly done a few because he's a great organist too. I'm sure there's other organists that have, tried to do arrangements of of pieces that you love the piece, right? You love the organ piece, and why can't this be? Anything can be played on bells, right? Yeah.
Right.
Well, and I think, you know, to your point about the different registrations and counterpoint and stuff, you know, using bells and chimes and, you know, other alternately tuned bells that are becoming more commonplace
Or even different articulations on the
to
bells.
explore, yeah, all the different, you know, ways we can bring lines out with different techniques and stuff. But I just didn't know if you had any words of wisdom on that point, as far as, you know, this era or this composer, this style from the literature works particularly well, you know, for bells. Just kind of brainstorming some ideas.
No, not off the top of my head. No, sorry.
That's
very,
all
very disappointing. Why'd you have me on?
No.
Well, what's your favorite organ piece, John?
Favorite organ piece? I've got lots of them. I played the Dorian Toccata by Bach, which was on Friday for a concert
Nice.
at our church, and it's a great piece. Viern's done marvelous pieces. You know, he's got two carillons, which, you know, are bell inspired.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The Westminster one and another one, which is
The other
small. Yeah, that's the one. They all have kind of nicknames to them, but no, and Buxtehude, actually, Buxtehude is probably my favorite organ composer. You like Buxtehude? I love him. I tend to like Buxtehude because his music is more sectional, and so you don't really get tired of a treatment. Sometimes, honestly, for me, Bach can go too long sometimes. We know he can write a fugue. He doesn't have to write it for 25 minutes, you know.
Say it again. Say it again.
Heresy. This is heresy.
No, it's true.
No, he's trying to prove he's the best, and he is. He absolutely is. But variety is great, and Buxtehude shows you can write fugue, but then he goes into a big homophonic section. So I mean, the organ literature is the Buxtehude is great, and let's face it, he was the inspiration for Bach.
Yes.
So Bach loved him too.
Okay, so how many handbell pieces do you have in print, John? Is it like 552 or something like that?
No. I mean, overall, you know, I write in three different. I write organ music, I write choral music, and I write bell music.
Okay.
There's over 600 with those three, but I'd say maybe 250 in bells, something like that. It's hard to sometimes know because, like, even the chime in ones, sometimes there's two or three pieces in the one octavo.
I've used
So
those.
I don't know.
Good. Those are really good.
Thank you. And they were written because when I took over as the music editor in 2003, the guild never got any level 1 or 2 music, very rarely. It was always 4, 5, or 6 or whatever.
Mhm.
And I mean, the leadership was saying, well, we need to get things for everybody, basically. So that's what I started. Well, nobody's sending it in. Let me try to write something. And so that's, yeah.
So
I've used it at my church. It's really good.
you've been in the handbell world for
Long time.
a long time. Any special memories? I mean, we are here in the ThanksRinging season. Anything for which you're particularly thankful, or any shout outs of gratitude from handbell memories that you'd like to share?
Yeah, bells in Milwaukee, when I was in Milwaukee, I was very fortunate, and some others too. Doc Severinsen would travel around. I know Kay Cook and I think Monica up in Minnesota. Doc would come to those concert halls and at Christmas time want to use bells.
Mhm.
And so in Milwaukee, that's where I got involved. And being able to be on stage for my ringers at that time, college ringers, and later on the Milwaukee Handbell Ensemble, to be on the stage with professional musicians and interact with them, and especially the percussion players, which were always close to us. I mean, the percussion players were just in awe of the bell players because, you know, they're ringing 16th notes, for crying out loud, sometimes 30 seconds, and right on the money. And so the percussionists would really appreciate stuff like that.
Mhm.
So, I mean, that type of exposure that the bells, you know, were there was terrific. Stuart Shavitz is a conductor, a pop conductor who goes around. He's everywhere, really. But he actually allowed me to, because I orchestrated some of the pieces, and the bells would come out and play from memory on the front of the stage, and the orchestra would play, and Stuart actually let me conduct from the podium, and that was a thrill. To conduct the Milwaukee Symphony was pretty cool. I would say the other highlight is actually the international symposiums. I went to a few. Toronto was my first. I was brand new. I didn't know what I was doing. But I was there and exhibiting, and people were so kind. Australia was the other one in Brisbane, and that was terrific because I mean, people were from all over the place and so kind. And lately, the last one I was at was Nashville, and that was great. It wasn't as great because COVID was still kind of going around, and some of us had masks and some didn't. I mean, I would pass people in the hall that I've known for 25 years, and they didn't know who I was. You know, hi, Bill, how are you? You know, Bill Payn. You know, he didn't. I don't think he recognized me with the mask. But some people did get COVID at Nashville, and luckily I didn't, so that was good. But the international symposium, I also was in Orlando, and I took my group to Orlando. That was terrific. Arnold Sherman did that trio of pieces.
Yep. The American Tapestry.
Tapestry, great.
Yeah.
For the band that was there, that was terrific.
That was.
Yeah, Arnold's a great loss. Yeah, miss him.
Yeah, so many
Well,
people.
we can take time during this season to give thanks for all of the people that we have lost and that have shaped and molded our lives, in not just a musical way, but you know, a deep heart connection. There's so many people in the handbell community, and we were just talking with Linda about how supportive handbell musicians are for one another. So that's just a fantastic way to end that moment. We do want to share with everybody something that is not sentimental, something that is not from the Orkin literature, but we've got a video queued up of the Milwaukee Handbell Ensemble playing your original Ring Zing Swing. So super fun, and we're gonna check that out next. So thank you for spending some time with us.
Thank you, John.
Welcome. Great to see you all.
Happy ThanksRinging.
You're welcome.
To smile a little bit. You see every once in a while the smiles that are up here. But I have to share a secret. They won't hear. They're really, they might smile and all that, but they're really very competitive people. They really are. You know, there's the high bells here. You know, they play the melody and they think, oh, without the melody, what would this piece be? Ooh, right? There's the middle bells, the battery.
Right here.
Oh boy. Okay. Well, you know, they play all the time, right? Middle plays all the time. It's like the glue that holds the whole piece together. At least they're the glue. And then there's the bass bells. Okay? You know, don't encourage them. Don't encourage them. It only gets worse. You know, they're the base, right? The foundation. Without a foundation, what would it be? Absolutely nothing. Yeah, absolutely. Well, maybe I don't. But what's going to happen is that I'm going to let you guys decide who's the best here. We got a little piece called Ring Zing Swing. It's a little jazz number, and they'll each have a chance to kind of prove how good they are to you.
And we are back. Thank you for hanging out with us tonight. Love that. If you're not kind of grooving with that, you're just not living. So start grooving. Thanks to John for being with us tonight and doing that live interview from his new home, new in the last few years in Florida. Didn't realize he had moved, but I'll get caught up. And we're going to keep things rolling. Michelle?
Yes, hi. We are here to speak with Venita McCorman. Venita, how are you doing today?
Just fine. Like I said, I've been watching this and I'm just really enjoying this.
Well, we are glad you're here. And you know, most people watching this, of course, are going to know you from Handbells, but you've actually done some other musical work as well. I know that you have some published choral music and music for brass quintets. So what is your favorite instrument to write for, and why is it Handbells?
It's a good question, but before I'm any of those, I'm a teacher. I'm an educator. And so everything that I have taught or done or written has been for educational purposes. Right now, my big thing is Native American flute because I could do that after I retired. And I'm really active in the local Native American flute circle.
Nice. I have one of those. I played one with Bay Bells one year, so that was nice.
Well, they are addictive and you can't stop with one.
It's true.
I'm just telling you because, you know, you have to have one in every key.
Yeah, like 6 recorders, so I understand.
Yeah, right. And one of the things I do is play in hospice facilities because, okay, I'm in Oklahoma. There are lots of Native Americans around. And there is a playing him home ceremony that I take part in. And there's not a lot of natives who play flute. And so, because the last boarding school in this area closed in 1984.
That recently, wow.
Yeah. And so before 1984, Native children weren't allowed to own a flute or drum. So so teaching that as well as part of what I do. Yeah.
Nice. Speaking of teaching,
I
had a question for you.
Okay, you broke up a little. I couldn't hear what you said.
Michael, are you still there?
Here you are.
Here. Yep. I was here in a little loop as well.
Sorry. I just was going to say that Michael has a question about your teaching because, you know, your basic ringing.
Oh, you set that up. So I thought you had a follow-up thing. I was thinking about your main sort of handbell resource, you know, basic training for bells. It's been 22 years, I think, since that book came out. So obviously a lot has happened. We always say our instrument is a very young instrument, in most of the symphonic instruments and such. So I just thought it would be fun for you to talk to us a little bit about what you've seen as constant, what has changed, how you see things in 2003, and, you know, what would you do differently if you were writing that book today?
Actually, I am. We're working on an updated version right now.
Nice.
And so things are going to go in a little bit different order. It's going to be, they can do so much more with the graphics now and arranging and the fonts. And so the music's going to be bigger. The notes are going to be bigger on the page. And I actually I'm directing the 4th and 5th grade group right now. And
God bless you.
And they are so fun. But one little girl that had played piano, and so she had seen music before, the first time that we got in the book, she said, "Why is that music so small?" And that was a really good question. You know, that was a really good question. So anyhow, the new version will have larger notes and it will be reproducible. I mean, that's a major thing that's happened. But what they're going to do is the book with the instruction and the sample pieces, like the one now, will be reproducible, but there will be a separate volume with only the pieces, yeah, that's
Okay.
not reproducible. Because people use this for the rookie ringers classes at the fall festivals a lot of different places, and they're not going to want to buy a whole reproducible thing for each ringer. But anyhow, so, and then I think you're talking to Diana Montgomery somewhere in this. She's doing basic training in adaptive notation
Yes.
as well. Yeah.
So, as far as the evolution of techniques and stuff with the instrument, what has been for you maybe the most interesting, the most surprising, the most horrifying since 2003? Come a long way.
Yeah, it has been. It has been. And of course, in 2003, we didn't have the mega chimes. And certainly not the average church or, younger group. Not as many churches had the huge bells. Martellotto had been around for a while, but we were tweaking it. We were learning that Martellotto is not a dynamic level, and we were learning how to make it musical. Yeah.
We're still
trying to make it musical. Yeah. And that's why I'm adding an exercise with making a gradual crescendo and decrescendo with Martellottos, so that people can learn that you can play it soft as well as loud. I think that in the past 20 years, well, of course, singing bell wasn't around 23, and that's not a beginning technique anyway, but we'd not heard of singing bell.
So you're early for that. It was 2004 at National Seminar, we introduced that. So
right, but and even after it was introduced, it took a while to appear the way it does now. In the early 2000s, we knew that there was an echo technique, but we didn't use it a lot in the younger kids' music. The level 1 music didn't start using echo technique until quite a bit later. Trying to think of what else. I wasn't expecting this question. That's good.
It's be a recurring theme.
You did. It is. It is. And I think that one of the things that I've seen happen the most, and it's a really, really good trend, is more and more we're writing pieces that can be secular or sacred, because, we started all this in the churches, but it's much more, it's such a good educational tool.
Yes.
Tool. And it's in the schools and so many other institutions now that we're expanding who we write for and who we talk to and who we teach. And I think that's what we need to do.
Yes.
And we've reached out to special needs ringers and kids in a variety of ways. And we've just started understanding more what a wonderful tool it is.
And a lot of schools, I think, are starting to realize that they get past the sticker shock of buying a set of bells and tables and foam and mallets and everything, and realize the investment that is in how many students they can reach by having multiple bell classes, throughout the course of their curriculum. It's astounding versus, a local school here that every first and second grade kid plays violin. Like that's
actually
too. And a lot of them don't stick with it. But it's such a wonderful teaching tool. And so I'm excited to see that appearing more and more in the educational world. And I know that the Guild is working hard on that as well.
Yes.
I've lost which title it is. It's not 9, maybe it's 11. One of those titles in education, one of those laws in Indian education says that the Indian schools have to offer the same classes and electives that are offered in other public schools in the same district. I did a chime festival several years ago in Pauls Valley, Oklahoma for the no, I'm going to be white and say Native American churches. My Native American friends call themselves Indians. All those churches were under the Indian Education Act, and so all the schools, sorry, because the kids couldn't afford band and orchestra instruments, but they were required to offer instrumental music because the other schools had them. They had hand chimes.
Nice.
And every one of them in the Pauls Valley area in Oklahoma, White Bead School and some of the others, every one of them has chimes. So I did this combined festival of them. And, you know, they picked the music. I didn't pick the music, and they picked some stuff that had techniques you wouldn't do on chimes. So we improvised, like percussive praise and some of this. So I said, instead of using mallets on these chimes, do you have any percussion instruments? Well, what do you want? Well, a big drum and maybe a shaker. Yeah. So after the break, I come in and they brought me a powwow drum that's the size of my dining room table. And people sit around it with giant mallets. And the shakers were goat's toenails on a piece of goat parings on a piece of elastic that you shook. And Kevin McChesney was a composer. I wrote to him and I said, you have not heard your piece until you have heard it done with powwow drum and goat's toenails. Yeah.
I think that some people have that on their Thanksgiving menu, actually. You'll see. Venita, it's been so great to have you with us tonight. And like our last guest, Dr. John Benkey, you know, musicians never really retire. So thank you for, in your retirement, continuing this amazing education.
And my trivia for the day that John just missed, the fourth and fifth grade bell choir that I'm volunteering to direct now. The director of music there is one of John's organ and handbell students from Concordia.
I always say the more people I meet through music, the smaller the world seems to be.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
Venita, thank you. And
Thank you.
we're gonna hop over to some footage with some folks that you all will recognize from community ensembles. So we're gonna jump on over there. So
great. Thank you.
Magic. Venita, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, well, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate your time.
Good to be here.
I'm excited.
Sure.
This is going to be fun. We thought, since we've got, you know, the founding directors of Sonos and Raleigh Ringers, and Casey is the current director of Agape Ringers, but if I'm not mistaken, a founding member of that group as a ringer before you took the baton. So I thought we could do some like round robining question things and just fire them and give you guys each a chance to answer in whichever fun and crazy order you want to do things. So I thought we'd kick it off by just saying, as a 30,000 foot view without all the granular stuff, in broad strokes, give us a description of your group's journey and evolution from concept to today. Go.
Okay, I'll start if you like. Well, Sonos started in 1990, I think same year that David started with his group.
Yep.
Raleigh, from a group of dropouts. They were dropouts from church choirs in the community. They played in various church choirs, and they were interested in a group that gave them more challenge. They were bored sometimes with what they were doing for church, unfortunately. And Kathy Fink and Pam Grove were the founders, and they came and asked me if I would be their director. Now, in 1988, they asked me if late 88, early 89, they asked me if I would be their director, and I said no at that point because I didn't have time. I was too engaged with other things. So about a year later, I retired from a church job that I had, and it said, and Kathy heard about it. Kathy Fink heard that I had retired, and she came back and she says, "Okay, Jim, now is the time." And so Kathy is a retired juvenile hall probational officer, so she was very
You know that.
persistent. Anyway, so I said yes. Okay, and so we started. We started with 9 people at that point. We just had 9 ringers, and some of the best people around, of course, including Kathy. And I said, okay, well, we need a brochure and we need a name. So I said, this week we practiced once a week at a Presbyterian church in Walnut Creek, and I said, please think of what you want to call the group. And I said, we need to do a brochure, and everybody's mouth sort of dropped. And I said, this is going to be a professional group. So at the beginning, we people contributed $15 a month to help us with what little expenses we had at that point. And we had borrowed bells. And so we practiced and we started playing. The first time we played was at a festival in Sacramento. And we said, okay, we're going to play here, and if we get a good response, maybe we'll continue. So that was a festival that we played the Leyenda at, the Albéniz. And the Knights of the Bell Table were there too, if you remember that group from Southern California. And we got a standing ovation before the piece almost even finished. So we figured, okay, that's a good sign. So we'll continue. And I do have a Super 8 video of that piece, and which is really great because 9 ringers ringing that piece. And there was one spot when Kathy was ringing bells and just dropping them and picking up another bell. It's just an amazing, amazing video. So that's what got us started. And then we morphed into being able to pay our ringers per rehearsal and per concert. And then we started playing all over the place and many states in the country, and eventually to Japan, 8 tours of Japan, and cooperating with various orchestras and musical ensembles that we attracted to play with us and commission works to do with them. The highlight, I guess, was the Kronos Quartet, when we did that work with them. At any rate, so that's what happened, and we just kept going, and there we are.
Nice. Dave, KC, wants to jump in.
I'll go. We also, as Jim mentioned, got our start in 1990. We evolved more or less out of a church group that I directed. That we were at the end of each season, we would pull together the music we worked on during the year, maybe add a secular piece or two, and did little concerts. And we thought not only the church community but the outside community started coming, and thought, maybe we can just do handbell concerts. Maybe we can explore this. So we got bells on loan for 6 months. We got several different retirement centers where we started rehearsing, and some great gifts from lots of folks to help us get started. That first year we were a little concerned about doing handbell auditions because it was something none of us had done. And we put an ad in the paper and all kinds of arts publications. And we had 16 people that came to auditions. Our goal was to have 15 members. About halfway through the audition night, one lady whispered in my ear and grabbed her coat and said, this isn't for me. And we were left with 15 people. And I thought, now what is so hard about auditions? Subsequent years, people had heard about the Raleigh Ringers a little bit. So we had higher numbers that came to auditions. But as far as where we have gone, I certainly didn't dream of the things that we've been able to do over the years. Have been blessed with lots of wonderful engagements. Playing next year, we're just engaging in going back to Chautauqua for the 4th time. Of course, that's Jake speaking, by the way, my dog, who's agreeing. We probably one of the highlights also is the PBS specials that we got great support from our local North Carolina PBS network of PBS stations, not only to play it in North Carolina, but in 45 states over the years. And that's been something that's been, yes, good for us, but also good for our instrument. We have found that people have never heard of handbells before, but PBS has the kind of outreach into remote places that groups have gotten started and ringers have gotten started into churches and other groups because of that PBS special. So we always like to point that out. But yeah, we have 2 charter members that have been with us all 35 years or so. So and each year we continue to do auditions and continue to move along. So we've had a lot of fun. I think our niche is just to try to do a variety of music. We have always done a little bit of classical, a little bit of rock and roll, lots of original, and we try to reach as many folks in our audience as we possibly can. So that's
Nice.
the Raleigh Ringers.
Tell us about Agape, Casey.
Well, in 1991, Dave and Jane Holstein got married, and he was working at Hope Publishing, and so was she. And before that time, Dave had always been going to Arizona to record the new releases for Hope Publishing with Kay Cook. And Jane was like, we could save a lot on travel if you just put a group together here in Chicago. So I remember walking into his office to buy music, and he's like, hey, if I started a community choir, would you want to be part of this? And I said, yes, I would. So apparently he had that conversation in his Hope Publishing office quite a few times, because we ended up with 13 ringers to start that. And then over the course of time, some of us grew with our skills and some did not. And so that's at the point where we started doing auditions, which I agree is extremely hard, because you kind of know where you stand in a group. Like, am I the best or am I mediocre? And so that was a hard transition to make at that point, because we had been going 3 or 4 years. But our first performance that first year was with West Town's Barbershop Chorus. I don't know about anybody else, but I love barbershop music. And so they had been champions. I don't know if it was state or national, but when they invited us to come and perform, we got hooked on that adrenaline feeling and started booking other concerts to go with that one.
All right, so my question for all y'all is, how do you choose what pieces to do? I mean, Jim, obviously a lot of our Sonos music is from the classical world, but how do you choose which one to do? Is there a process?
Well, I'll start since you mentioned. When we first started, our first concerts were mostly Christmas. Which, bells and Christmas. That's the natural.
Okay.
So then you look for the arrangements that are done at that point, and you choose, which ones you like to put in the program, just from a standpoint of what works and what flows and what's interesting and all that kind of stuff. But then I started doing eventually theme concerts that are our regular concerts outside of the Christmas theme. And for that, I decided on the theme. Like, we've had one concert which was called American Tense, which was American composers, Gershwin, Bernstein, Copland, those things, because there's a wealth of material there, of course. Then other concerts, we did a concert called Runaway Child, about the life and adventures, the runaway adventures of Isaac Albéniz, the Spanish composer. So I chose music that some of his music and music from other composers around him. Then we've had Space Between the Notes concert, which is all about movement, not behind the tables. So whatever the concert concept was, then I would have to either find the music that was arranged for it or do it myself. and mostly it was the latter.
Yeah, you've done a lot of
Because
work.
I couldn't find the music that fit, you know, those things weren't arranged that I wanted.
So Dave, how do you choose what pieces to play? And when you do your pop song, your rock song, how do you choose your rock song for the year?
Yeah, we don't often have a theme concert. I mean, we've done all of the at the time all the arrangements from the Nutcracker in a concert. We've done Trans-Siberian. Last year we did 10 Trans-Siberian Orchestra arrangements that Hart did for us. But in general, it's a lot. We've done a lot of commissions. So we've done over like 160, 170 commissions. Sometimes those outside of the box things we're bringing back this year. Linus and Lucy, that was the first one that Hart did for us. So we always kind of try to look, although we do some sacred things in our concerts, try to look for fun secular music and then turn to an arranger, composer to put those together for us. As far as the rock goes, lately Keith Bird in our group has done those arrangements. Paul McElveen, who was our assistant director and a charter member, did some of those. Marcia Murphy in our group. So they've been pretty much internal folks to the Raleigh Ringers that have done those arrangements over the years.
Casey?
Dave started with deciding that we would have something for everyone in a concert and did an eclectic assortment of classical, like Dave said. And we have moved on from there. What I've noticed over the years, having gone forward, this is not meant to be a plug, but my husband is the MC for Bells in Motion, which meets in Decatur, which used to be Mike Lamb's group. And since the MC and the director live together, we have many discussions about intros, and he is very adamant that the intro is important to the show. So now that I've taken over, I look for songs that have really good background stories that an audience member might not know. I also look for something for everyone, because most of the time a spouse is being dragged to our, not drugged, to our,
maybe,
to our concert. And once they get there, they're like, hey, that's pretty cool. I'm glad I really did come. The intros that I do, I try to make sure that it really helps to explain the piece, especially if they're original pieces. I'm lucky enough to have my sister who majored in creative writing. I don't know what you do with that, but apparently you help your sister write an intro. And so we did Alex Giebert's Overdrive. And so she wrote me this great story of I-55 and Route 66, which is the one of two options I have to get to the Agape Ringers rehearsal. So depending on the mood, all right. And then when I wrapped that intro up, that closed with, you can hear in Alex's music the horns honking, and then the calmness where there's no traffic, and then the screeching of tires that might be demonstrated in the music. And what I find is that it not only helps my audience know where we're going, but the ringers are now on the same page and moving forward with that song to display what I just created as an intro for them.
Cool.
So maybe segueing right along with that, you know, the sort of being on the same page as a group with the message of the piece, if you will. You know, a lot of people will ask the question, okay, what is the main single value or priority that your ensemble holds dear? I want to ask you guys to literally go one step further. What are the two biggest sort of values or priorities that your group holds as its mainstays?
I say, first of all, is to expand the public's awareness of what handbells are capable of.
Okay.
And because most people have the opinion they've heard a church handbell group, probably if they have one, and they don't think a whole lot of it. And that was my first impression when I first heard handbells. And this was a good group. This was the St. John's Presbyterian Church in Berkeley, which was Dick Coulter's church. And I heard his teenage group play Christmas carols. And I thought, wow, that's really quite beautiful. But can they sustain, you know, a long program? The sound is quite beautiful, but is there more variety than just that beautiful quality of sound? That was my original concept. So I thought I had started to develop then sometime later, in fact, a couple of months later, a teenage group at the church I was at. And I said, okay, we're going to push you guys to see what's possible for bells. And I remember we were playing a very simple arrangement of Greensleeves. We were in the sanctuary and I said, okay, look, you're playing the notes. I've got the notes, you got the rhythms and all that kind of stuff, but you're not making music out of it. We need to phrase this phrase this has to crescendo and then diminuendo and maybe a little relaxation at the end. So I told them exactly what to do. And then I walked back in the sanctuary and I got them started. And this beautiful phrase just leapt out of the music. And so I said, aha, I almost cried, to tell you the truth. It was so beautiful. I said, okay, this medium has some potential. So that was my first thing. And then I think the second thing is to introduce composers to these sonic possibilities. Okay. And so by doing that, that's why we have commissioned some works, and I have written some works for handbells. And we did the first work commission by Bill Ludke at the Springfield, Massachusetts Directors Convention, or wasn't called Directors Convention. I think, what was it called? Well, what Directors Convention, I think then?
Directors Seminar.
Yeah. Directors Seminar, that's right. And I brought a contemporary work that was for handbells, soprano. I had a friend who lived in New York, wonderful soprano. She came up to do it with us. Percussion. And so we drafted people at the seminar to play the percussion parts. It wasn't all that difficult. So we performed that. It shocked a lot of people. And Libby Larson was there at that point. Not Libby Larson, sorry, Karen Buckhalter. And so after the performance that night, I came back to my hotel room, and slid under the door had been an envelope, a manila envelope with Nocturne by Karen Buckwalter. She said, I have just got this accepted for publication and I'd like to dedicate it to Sonos. So that's how that came about. So I said, okay, well, we're in the process of fulfilling that goal of letting composers know what's possible.
So Dave, for Volley Ringers, what are your group's two biggest values or priorities?
Yeah, one quick thing first. I wanted to address something that Jim had said. That Springfield Director Seminar, it was very interesting. I think it was, a bunch of groups that were in their infancy that have grown over the years. So Sonos was there, Raleigh Ringers was there, Strike Point, Bill Alexander's group, may he rest in peace, was there, and I think there was a fourth group that had really were just in their first few years.
Kodama's group was there.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
And we saw them. They had put Band-Aids on some of the clappers.
On the clappers.
Yeah.
So that was a big deal that year at AGHR year. For us, although we have loved playing for handbell festivals, and we've been, many 10 out of the 12 areas we've, done opening concerts for their festival and so forth. We really have enjoyed when we've been part of artist series that we are bringing handbells to a place where they hadn't been before. So the acceptance on whether it's a community or a college artist series where you see the list of artists for the year, and it includes well-known groups like orchestras and bands and dance groups and brass groups and so forth, and then a handbell choir, I think has been one of the more rewarding things for us and a goal that we've achieved. The other thing, if I had to think back, when we get feedback after a concert, not only has this been one of their most favorite handbell events or handbell concerts they've heard, but they've been entertained. And it's been one of the more entertaining concerts overall that they've been to. And as was mentioned by Casey, we always have that experience where someone is dragged into our concerts. It's a spouse often, and they come back and they come up to the stage and say, I never knew handbells could do this. So there's a couple things from us. Cool.
Casey, how about for Agape?
I think one of our first goals back in 1992 was the new releases for Hope Publishing, which is why he called us Agape. And then it became education, helping other ringers become better by doing workshops and that. And then COVID hit and changed everything. So now I feel like the group is, I need my family members and you guys are it. And we feel like we've been through a lot together, especially, long term. We only have 4 of our original members around, but still the other ones that have joined us have been here for 20 and 15 years. So when COVID hit and we could finally get back out and do concerts, I thought we need to have some enjoyment out of life because life is hard right now.
Mm-hmm.
There's just too many things going on. We're losing family members and that. And so I hoped that the ringers would take ownership of the music that I would pick and help spread the joy. Even if it makes them cry, they obviously needed to cry, and if that touched their soul, then we've done our job. So I love that the ringers are as invested with that as I am.
Fantastic answer. Thank you so much.
And all of you, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate your time and being willing to just sit and chat with us. And I hope you all have a great day and happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
Thanks for asking us. Yep.
That was pretty awesome. In fact, that song played by Sonos, I saw Rung by Sonos very shortly after I first learned about handbells and went to a Sonos concert, and I was blown away. But anyway, I just want to remind you, we've got a lot of names going up on the wheel here. Every time we ask a trivia question, get in there, and the first 20 people who get it right gets thrown up on that board. And for those who have joined us late, I want to tell you what we're giving away at the end of this broadcast. We're giving away a year's membership to HMA. If you're already a member, we'll extend your membership by a year. We are giving away a free registration to Virtual Winter Workshop, which happens in January. And then the big grand prize is going to be a full registration plus 6 nights hotel stay for National Seminar next July in Cincinnati. So be looking for those questions. They're going to appear very randomly. Oh, and the way we're going to contact you, since a lot of the names up here, as you can tell, are not real names, and we don't know who some of you are. So after we get the 3 winners, we will contact you through your YouTube channel. So watch messages on your YouTube channel. Unless you're somebody that we already know, then we'll just contact you by email. So anyway, we have a couple of more videos coming up from the community groups. We've got a video by the Raleigh Ringers and then another one by the Agape Ringers.
And here we are live again, and we want to thank Casey Congdon and Dave Harris and Jim Meredith for the interview and those videos. Those were really great. Here we are with Christine Anderson. Michael, take it off.
Hello, Christine. Happy ThanksRinging.
Hi.
Good to see you.
Good to be here.
We have, so I just checked in because it's funny that we were discussing the game from tonight, the sports ball. It was something, the Cowboys pulled it out at the bottom of the ninth with some nice pay-up situation and a hat trick and yeah, all that. There we go. It's the oblong one. That's all I know about football. Anyway, handbells. Christine, you have been doing bells for a minute or two, or half a century or so. You are a fixture in the handbell world, and we're honored that you're here with us today. Thank you so much for taking the time. I know you've got a ton of stuff out in the world. You've got more than 100 some published solos and collections and all kinds of media, videos, recordings, etc. And you are currently living in Central California. Is that still true?
That is correct. Up in the mountains.
We had a little surprise when we were talking with John Benkey earlier. I didn't realize he had moved.
You had a surprise.
I had a surprise. I didn't know he had moved from Florida. So, but I'm going to ask you, and it's funny that you were watching the sports ball game instead of watching this earlier, because I'm going to ask you the same question that I asked Linda Krantz, because I'm fascinated to hear what your answer might be. You have performed, obviously, tons and tons of solo literature, and you have obviously made the decision not to perform various solo literature because you've got to choose what speaks to you and what works for you, etc. So my question to you is, for composers and arrangers who may be looking to write for solo handbells and or for just starting into solo ringing musicians, what characteristics do you feel are embodied in the ideal handbell solo?
Well, first of all, I think it has to be a solo that interests the person, whatever genre is. For me, it's church music. So the majority of my arrangements are church oriented, although I do have a whole lot of classical and some secular. But I think it has to be something that they are really interested in. And when I was first starting, I wanted to ring solos that I already knew the melody. It just makes life a lot easier. But nowadays, so many soloists are branching out into original tunes. But if you're just beginning, I would say find something that you're already familiar with.
That makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, and I think that extends to even, our more traditional handbell ensembles, choirs and stuff. We're always saying bring out the melody, but if people don't know what the melody is, they can't bring it out. And you can sight read a more difficult arrangement of a familiar tune more successfully than an easier melody or an easier piece that is a tune that the group doesn't know. So that makes sense. What do you look for when you're selecting rep as far as, seeing what makes a good solo piece? Obviously, there's all manner of difficulty levels and such, but what do you look for, and what advice would you have for folks beyond find a tune that you like, but as far as the technical side of things, or how to start wading into those waters? Because I know there's a lot of people that see solo ringing and like any other handbell stuff go, oh, I want to do that, but how do they start?
Well, you need to start with your own ability, because if you just jump into something that's really complicated, that's not going to be very successful. For me, I don't look at anyone else's repertoire because I have enough to do my own. But if it's for a solo ringer who's looking for repertoire, I think there are two things you have to think of first. Where are you playing? And who is your audience? So are you looking to do performances in a concert setting? Are you there to play in a church service? And who is your audience? And what are they going to appreciate? But I would definitely say choose something that falls within your ability. And something I've told solo ringers in the past, if you cannot ring a piece at the proper tempo that your audience is used to hearing, you're not ready to play it. So if you have to slow it way down just to make it successful, don't do that one yet. But you also might not want to take a piece and ring it at breakneck speed just because you can.
Sure. Yeah.
To tell myself that.
Faster isn't always better. It's got to be musical.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Nice. I like your reference to the tempo giusto there, you know, a tune that we know there's just a set tempo that works, and the audience does expect that.
Yes.
Christine, I have to say, I'm so glad you're here because, as you know, I've known you forever. It feels like forever sometimes. Anyway, I want to know, and maybe other people might be curious about this too, what first got you into solo ringing? Why did you become a soloist?
I never wanted to do anything like that. It happened accidentally. As so many of us have experienced things like that. I was a music major at Florida Atlantic University, and I didn't want to compose or teach or do any of those things, but you had to choose something. And since I have sung since I was 2 years old, I thought, well, I'll be a voice major. But I know my limitations. I don't have a solo voice. I have a blending voice. I do really well in a choir, but I still had to do that. And my senior year, my voice teacher gave me the news that I was not good enough to do a senior recital. And my first reaction was, praise God, I don't have to do a senior recital. But I still had to fulfill the requirements. So I did a thesis on the history and practice of the English handbell because I had been ringing for 7 years in a bell choir. And as so often happens, the day that I had to do a video presentation with my own bell choir, one of my ringers couldn't make it. So I asked a friend of mine whose name is Daniel Miller of the quartet version. And this was before he started writing handbell quartets. He said, oh, I would love to be in your video. And oh, by the way, I ring the Lord's Prayer as a solo. I really feel like you need to have that on your video. And I thought, no, handbell ringing is a team sport. You don't do solos. I never saw him ring until the day of the taping, and I sat there mesmerized. Now it's a slow solo and it's very easy, but it had never occurred to me that one person could do that. And then that next week I went back to the bell room and I thought, I wonder if I could do that. And I literally put out my hand, God put a handbell in it, and said, now use it for my glory. Because what I didn't realize, that all the techniques that I had learned under Don Alured were perfect for solo ringing. And I picked up those bells and it was instantaneous.
Yeah, that's awesome. I remember I had a similar experience in a little bit in that, I started playing bells one year, and within the next year I was directing a bell choir, and I got a bunch of catalogs in the mail, and they had quartets and trios and solos. And I'm like, what do you mean it takes 10 people to ring handbells? What is this? But and at the time I couldn't afford to get your video, Christine, your VHS video. So although I eventually did, but I got your red book, the songs for the solo ringers. and taught myself how to weave and everything from that book. And as you know, that's like a formative moment in my life. I wouldn't be where I am right now doing even this interview or anything if it hadn't been for you. And I appreciate you so much, Christine. So
Thank you, Michelle.
I know I'm not the only person with a story like that, that you've touched so many people. You've played. How many countries have you played in?
26.
26 countries. And all 50 states now?
All 50 states.
I remember when it was like 48 and you had like 2 more to go.
Yeah, well, I finally got Rhode Island. That was the last one. And I never got paid for that. I think they asked me to do that just because they knew I needed the 50th state.
Yeah, to cross off the list.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So what are you doing in handbells nowadays? Have you retired like everybody else, which means you're still doing what you were doing before only?
No, I have not retired and I have no plans to. I have 2 more gigs this month and I'm still ringing. I just did a wedding at the ocean in California. So yeah, and I'm still practicing whether I have a gig or not because I need to be ready.
There you go.
And it's amazing when you let it go for a few weeks, how your ability starts going down.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, like anything. I mean, you skip the gym for a little while and you're like, why can't I lift lifting before? Well, use it or lose it, right?
Right. Yeah.
It's wonderful. What your gigs coming up? These are holiday things, Christmas things?
Yes, they are. December 21st in Houston, Texas, and Christmas Eve out here at a church in Southern California.
Nice. So you won't have a white Christmas where you are.
Yeah, we had 3 inches of snow this week.
She lives up in the high mountains.
Oh, you're in the mountains. Okay.
Yeah.
You and John, I just can't keep it all straight.
Yeah.
Weather. Well, thank you for being with us tonight, Christine, and for sharing your heart and your passion and your faith and your journey. It's always fun to hear the origin stories.
Yes.
And like we've talked about tonight with others, and Michelle and I and others have discussed for years, you know, none of us would be living the lives we're living if it were not for this instrument and the people that we have crossed paths with and our lives paths have intersected with because of Handbell, which is why they didn't ask me to say this, but I'll say this is why we need to support Handbell Musicians of America, people, because this organization literally has changed lives. And those of us here right now are no exception to that. So in this season, we are thankful for our instrument. We're thankful for the luminaries and the pioneers and the forward thinkers and the next generation that are coming along. And Christine, so glad that you were a part of all of that. So thank you for being with us. Happy ThanksRinging.
Yes, happy ThanksRinging.
And we're going to watch you do a little patriotic bit. We've got Yankee Doodle coming up.
All righty.
So look forward to that. Thanks again.
Thanks, Christine.
Thank you.
Hello, and we're back. Thank you to Christine for talking with Michael and Michelle. And I want to take a moment to thank Michael and Michelle for all that you're doing tonight, and to Derek for making this online magic. So we are very, very grateful. A few little teasers for you. Coming up soon is an interview with Lynn Thompson. That's very soon. But after that, this is in no particular order. We will hear from Diana Montgomery and Kathy Taylor talking about adaptive notation. We have an interview coming up with Nancy Capel. And we have a very special interview with Damian Kulash from OK Go. So please stay on the broadcast with us. Before I hand it back over to Michael and Michelle, if you are not yet a member of Handbell Musicians of America, please go to our website and join. You do not have to be a handbell musician to be a member of Handbell Musicians of America. You can be a musician, you can be a director, you can be a conductor, or you can be what I am, a handbell enthusiast. Those are all of our audience members. So please visit our website, handbellmusicians.org, click the little join button in the top right corner and join and become part of this amazing community. Michael and Michelle, back to you.
Thank you so much. It really is astonishing, you guys, what this organization does and the way it does it and the spirit with which it does it.
Yes.
Realize that it changes because of what it does. I won't get to preaching, but anyway, our next segment in our pre-recorded library of interviews that we've done over the last month is with the astounding Lynn Thompson. It was so great to see her again, even though it was just digitally. Speaking of people who never retire, that's been a running theme, and I think John Benkey hit the nail on the head. Musicians really don't ever actually retire. We just get to sleep in later, I guess, when we feel like it. So we're going to jump over to hear from Lynn, and then we'll be back.
Lynn Thompson. First of all, I'm thrilled to be here with you here, and I'm very excited that you were able to join us today. As a composer of handbell music, what was your initial inspiration for starting to write music for the instrument? Why did you start writing handbell music?
Well, with the choirs that we took to the festivals, and we always went to a regional and or a national. Mm-hmm. Originally, the programs consisted and we're talking the 1960s, and so many of the concerts had so many of the same pieces of music on them. Good music, but we would hear it again and again at the festival. And so our ringer said, well, we want something that nobody else would play. And so that's what got me interested in finding something that would work. Now, I've made some really dumb mistakes, and unfortunately, some of my dumb mistakes were published. But, you live and you learn, and you find out what works with your group and what they like to do. Mm-hmm. So it was a matter of necessity in a way. Mm-hmm. But then eventually we had many bell choirs at the church, so we needed a lot of music for them, and they wanted something that was theirs.
So in addition to concert pieces and things like that, I know that you've done a lot of pedagogical writing as well. Right. Small pieces for this and everything. I actually collect all the old method books and things. I mean, I've got like Doris Watson's book and things like that. So how did you come to start doing those? Was that also for your church choirs, or was that a separate thing?
All of what I've done, other than when I have been really out of commission and fully retired, came from the needs within the church situation. We were fortunate enough to have Fran Callahan join St. James, and she learned handbells through ringing, and then she began to direct the 4th grade bell choir. And so she and I would collaborate on writing things that we needed for that level. Fourth, she did the fourth, I did the fifth, somebody else did the sixth grades. And that's sort of where we got started. And then as the ringers got better and more advanced, then I tried to meet that need.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that they like, you mentioned that other piece that was
Sleigh ride?
what was it?
Sleigh ride.
Sleigh ride.
Sleigh ride. I love Leroy Anderson's music, and so I was privileged to have permission to do it. But I found that the ringers really, really liked the classics, the good music. They didn't care so much for what was popular at the time, but they liked the big things. One of the ones that I think in a way became a signature piece, certainly of the alumni ringers, was the Vito Toccata from the Fifth Symphony. They loved that and would play it at the drop of a hat. And they sort of consider that theirs. But it's just give them good music and they'll relate to it.
I think that one of the real talents that you have, and this is it's just filtering in now as we've been talking, is to your point that, good music is Arnold Sherman always used to say, good music is good music and cream rises to the top. But I think there's a level of discernment that you've really got in spades, that you recognize not everything, not every piece will translate well to being arranged for handbells.
Right.
I remember as a kid wanting to play, growing up in the 80s, taking piano lessons, and I'm going to play all this pop music and stuff on the piano. And I couldn't understand when my parents and my piano teacher said, that song just doesn't work on the piano.
Right.
It's just not written for that instrument. It's not going to sound right on that instrument. I'm thinking through, stuff of yours, and if there are, like you said, published mistakes, nothing comes to mind. Like you've got a real obvious talent in writing for the instrument, but knowing what works for it out of the gate before you even start on an arrangement or a transcription. Is there any magic in that process, or is it just kind of developing your ear over the years? Any advice? Because there's a lot of stuff out there that people are trying to put on bells that doesn't always work.
Yeah, I guess it basically comes from experience and from doing things that didn't work. And sometimes you have to just say, forget it. This is not going to work. You talk about a failure. When I first decided to write something for this bell choir that wanted their own, I had done a 2-part invention as part of my college requirement. And so, like an idiot, I submitted it to the AGEHR. And I shouldn't say this, but they accepted it. And not only was it not bell-like, but it was in the key of D flat.
Oh, gosh.
And, everything worked together to make it not successful, but it was published and I got $43 and odd cents for it. But I learned, and the next time I tried something, it was the Parade of the Wooden Soldiers, which worked.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's still available. My learning lesson was that they gave me $25 for it, and they owned the rights, and I never got any royalties for it. But making money in royalties was never my intent. It's nice if it happens.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's awesome. I'm wanting to get my hands on that piece now. You want to share the title?
I'm sorry, I didn't.
Do you want to share the title of your inventions? Were they just called Two Inventions?
That's what it was called.
Okay.
Invention. I don't know that it's published any longer.
Someone's got it in a library somewhere. They do.
Put a search
There's
on
some
eBay.
filing cabinet in some church somewhere that's got 20 copies of it sitting there in pristine condition.
I'll see if I can find a copy of it.
With no offense to the key of D flat.
No, but the ringers would probably pull their hair out.
Yeah,
I mean,
really good for their brains.
And well, yeah, but it's not a key that you think of as fitting the bell range.
right.
True. It's
And
true.
this certainly didn't cover the entire bell range, but we did have a D flat.
So one more question for you, Martha Lynn. We talked about you writing the concert pieces and writing the pedagogical pieces. What was your favorite configuration of bells to write for? I mean, was it 5 octaves, 3 octaves, 2 octaves, quartet, pedagogical pieces, or what? 2 octaves?
I think that depends on what time of my life it was. Earlier, it was first of all, things for the children that we needed. Then it became things that we needed for the advanced group. Then after COVID hit, we got hit hard. And I found that I really enjoyed doing 7-ringer music. And it was a challenge, but something that I enjoyed. And along with that line of thought, I did also do a collection of 7-ringer music, but it's a teaching collection that in front, at the top of each piece, there is a paragraph that tells the ringers what we're going to learn in this piece. And it may be just a new musical thought, or it may be a technique or whatever. Now, I would certainly hope the director would explain this, but by having it there in the music, part of the responsibility is now on the ringer. And I hope that the public finds it usable.
You probably think the ringers read footnotes too, don't you?
They can't miss this. It is at the top of the music before the first note is rung.
We do. Thank you so much, Martha Lynn.
Any last pearls of wisdom you want to share with everybody watching before we take off?
There was one thing that I was told you might ask, and that was words of wisdom.
Yes, we would love those.
I think it's very important to make the ringers feel like they're wanted and that they're loved. But at the same time, I think it's important to make them realize that they need to make a commitment and that what they say and their word is worth something. Now, as a child, the commitment not only is theirs, but it's a parental commitment also. And to some extent that it extends to the youth. But they need to know that if they say they will do something, their word is worth something. One of these days, they're going to be able to sign a contract for something, maybe buy a house or whatever it is. That's important for them to know. Just as a fun thing we did, we used to have the first meeting of our beginning bell choir with the parents. And what we did, we made a copy of a given psalm and we printed the psalm as it would appear out in the Bible. And at the top, we put what would appear as a Bell's use chart, a list of the words that would appear in the psalm. And the piece of paper with the psalm on it was given to the parents. Now, the rules were, you may not write on this piece of paper. You are be asked to read the psalm as if it were one person. So we gave them to go and to start. Well, they act just like ringers. Oh, I forgot that. That's my note. That's my word.
Everyone was given just a couple of words.
What?
Everybody was assigned their couple of words.
Yes.
I'm love
sorry.
it. What
I'm
fun.
sorry. I left that part out. Yes. And they acted just like ringers, but it taught them something, the importance of the ringers being at rehearsal every time.
Yeah.
I think that's important. And I think as those of us who are church musicians, I dare to say this, but I will. I don't think our first job is to teach music. I think our first job is to teach about God and God's love, but do it through music. And then once we've done that, together as a group, we can make music to God's glory. And I think if we keep our perspective on things like that, then we will be doing a service to the church, but we will also be doing a service to the ringers.
That's wise words indeed.
So as you can tell, the wheel of names is filling up. On a previous question, I actually had one answer in mind and some other answers came through. So I did a quick Google and we accepted 3 correct answers on what sport uses the term turkey. And they are golf, bowling, and cycling. I never knew about golf and cycling. So anyway, those of you who answered that have gotten your names up on the board too. And for those just joining, in case you don't know what I'm talking about with this wheel, at the end of the broadcast tonight, we are going to be giving away a few items. We've got year's membership in HMA, or if you're already a member, we'll extend your membership by a year. We've got a full registration.